right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
like
yeah.
when I walked into the guy's, my friend's office and said,
Yeah.
hey, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. He could have told me anything. I would have tried
Yeah.
it. You know, it wouldn't have
Huh.
mattered at that point.
I've been there before.
But 20 years later, my wife and I have used that process, and I use it in my businesses. I've got a board of one of the organizations. We just used that process just a month ago to plan out
Is it a secret?
2025. No, it's not a secret. It's actually 3 very simple things.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Entrepreneur Experience Podcast, where we just kind of get down and dirty with business. My name is Coach Joe with Action Coach South Kansas City. We also have
Dirty Jared. Oh, sorry.
That's his DJ
you said
name.
down and dirty for the first time in this. All right. Okay. I'm Jared Taylor with JT Visual. Sorry, I messed up that flow there.
It's all good. This
Gotta
is raw,
disrupt
man. You guys
things.
like this, right?
Well, we got someone else with us, Joe.
Yes, we have Coach Keith Miller, and he's pretty special, guys. Let me tell you what he has here. He has the Lifestyle CEO podcast, which is a
Ooh.
great podcast, by the way. So it's kind of cool to have another podcaster on our podcast. And he is also a business coach. He owns the Pursuit of Happiness Academy, where he emphasizes on business growth and leadership. Coach Keith Miller, how you doing
That's
today?
awesome.
I am great. Thanks so much for having me. It's really a pleasure to be here, and I'm really honored
Awesome.
that you guys had me on here. So thanks. I
Yeah.
appreciate, taking the time.
What do you
yeah.
think about that intro?
That was impressive.
All
I mean,
right.
yeah, you got it.
I did it all in one breath. I was actually about to pass out, and I just wanted to. It's just one of those
That's
things.
great.
If you guys haven't noticed already, sense of humor is part of our core values here. So
Oh, you have to.
I think
Even
so.
in business, it's like you have to have some sort of realness, of laughing.
Well, there's so many moments that could really kick you in the
For sure.
balls
Yeah.
that you kind of have to really enjoy what you do.
Mhm.
Like if it's not what you do, at least enjoy the entrepreneur experience part of it, right? So
Yeah.
no pun intended. Well, Coach, really quick, let us know a little bit about yourself. So if I could take like the 10,000-foot bird's eye view of who you are, how'd you get here, give us a little bit of a summary.
Sure. Well, gosh, it's over the last 25, 30 years. I've done a lot of stuff. I spent most of my career in either full commission sales or owning companies and businesses and building
Wow.
them and that kind of stuff, right?
Huh.
And I really have not. There's been maybe a grand total of 2 years of the last 30 where I had some kind of salary.
Huh.
Yeah.
What do you
so
mean by
plus-
that?
What I mean by
break
that is
that.
that where I had a salary where I didn't have to go out and kind of kill
your food,
kill my food, right?
yeah.
Go hunt
oh,
for something,
Yeah.
and
you said you
because
were
I
commissioned.
either had businesses and I had teams, so forth, or I was I started my career in sales and
Mhm.
full commission sales, and so
Nice.
I only had a couple of years maybe where I really had something where I had guaranteed income coming in from a company that was paying me. Everything else was, I had to go out and get it.
Well, based on that track record, if there was only 2 of those years, one of 2 things, it either made you sick or they didn't like you. Which one was it?
Probably both. Probably they both.
I joke that a true entrepreneur is like unemployable.
Yes,
do you
it's
agree with
true.
that?
No, for real.
It's
Oh,
true.
man.
The entrepreneur is like, they always see something that everybody else doesn't see. They always think they can do it better or bigger or something. And so, we get kind of this
Guilty.
experience, right? That
Yeah.
you talk about is like, it really is an experience. And I'll tell you who is a big experience for. It's
What's
a
up?
big experience for the spouse.
Oh, God.
Because
Oh, God.
you guys know.
You're opening up. They're
Yeah,
watching,
oh.
by the way. Please
Oh,
don't
yeah.
do this.
For sure.
Babe, I love you. And we just had this talk last night, and I'm joking.
Oh, for real? I was like,
Well,
what?
we had this conversation where she's coming back into the business with me, and it's been about
Oh, yeah.
2 or 3 years, and there's some interesting conversations like, I forgot you were like this, and I forgot you were
Yes.
like that. So
Does your spouse
Yes.
work with you or?
So she has before.
Okay.
She doesn't right now.
or is she a professional supporter?
But
all
I mean,
things Keith
she kind of has her own career now.
Okay.
But yeah, for a long time, she was like, "What are you doing again? We're doing this again."
You know the thing.
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've heard that question many times.
Yeah.
Does Rose ever ask you those
Dude,
questions?
my
Like,
wife Rose, she I wonder if she wonders it, but she actually is like she knows my strength is positive reinforcement. Like
Mm.
if she speaks to my strength and like, attaboy, like that kind of stuff to the good things,
Yeah.
that it really like makes me want to do more of that. And I think she really did a good job this time. I thought she was more against something at one point,
Mm.
but that was all in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's
she hasn't
powerful
really.
to have spousal support for our crazy entrepreneurial ideas.
Yeah.
You know.
It is. And it's also, I kind of opened this bag that I didn't intend to open, but it's now that it's open. It is kind of it is quite the experience for the spouse, because in a lot of cases they are really, there's a lot of trust that has to go into this. And okay, I'm trusting you that it's going to all somehow work out, because they're taking some risk, and you're taking some risk whenever you're building something.
Yeah.
And so it's crazy, but I mean,
Well, when they tell you I trust you, it makes me feel good, but it freaks me out too.
absolutely.
Like,
Oh crap!
I can't screw this up.
The pressure's on.
How long will she be saying this for? And because just full transparency. It's great to have your own schedule and to be able to be the master of that, but you have to master that, right?
For sure.
And there are a lot of shiny objects entrepreneurs get distracted with, and then we look back and like, crap, we're not productive. So yeah, that's a scary thing to say. I trust you, and it's like, okay, I got to really put boundaries on my craziness, So.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I trust you on day 1, but when you're on day 378, and it's like,
you said that so good.
It's like, what is happening right now?
Tell us about day 378 for you, Keith.
Yeah.
You knew
It's
exactly.
true. Yeah, 378 is like, well, we had a decent first year.
It's only up from here.
You're gonna keep doing this? I just want to know, right? Yeah. So
Oh man.
Oh man. You are opening up a can of worms right now. There's emotions going through me like crazy at the moment.
My day was like 12:67. That was the day when I was like, shoot, what does she think? Like, holy moly, like I'm done with this. Like, I got to do something different. And then everything actually changed from there. I was like, I'm not going to give up. I'm just going to double down. Like when I'm feeling down, I know this is part of the story.
Yeah, it is.
So
the day that for me was very early on, because we got married at 18, and I was entrepreneurial from the beginning, and I failed my first 8 businesses. And the first couple were like the first 2 years that we were married. And I think there was a moment we were driving and we had no idea how to buy groceries. We had 2 young kids, and she was crying in the car. I'm like, oh man, we're going to have this conversation again. And there was a song that came on the radio by Lifehouse. I'll do whatever it takes. I don't know if you've heard of that song.
I don't know. Yeah.
And she just looked at me and said, are you going to do whatever it takes? I'm like, I want to answer yes, but I'm very insecure right now because I've tried, but then it was just like that confident, yes, I'll do whatever it takes. And it's like, crap, what I get myself into. Yeah. But here we are.
Yeah.
17 years later.
Yeah.
Would you say a lot of it's actually just conquering insecurities, like overcoming the imposter syndrome, like at the beginning stages? Because you always feel like that's part of like risk, is like you feel like.
Yeah. I think you're always conquering that, because every level you get to, even though you've had success, there's another level of success that, as an entrepreneur, as someone who wants to continually succeed, you still feel like an imposter, because you're like, I had that success, but can I do that? And that's always that those voices in the head kind of thing that we have to manage, and we've got to
start
be
thinking
careful.
like, did I just get lucky? The last 5 times, like
that's one of the voices,
right?
Yeah,
because if you listen to episode 1, you hear our stories. I'm this poor kid from the ghetto that should be on drugs or dead, or in a gang or something. And so just sometimes I look back, I'm like, well, first of all, praise God for getting me here.
Yeah,
like His strength really got me through. But I also had to submit my will to Him. So then the imposter syndrome comes in and is like, well, you just got lucky. And you 5 million, try doing 10. You can't. You don't know what it takes to do 10 million. I'm like, oh gosh, these voices that you always have to conquer.
Yeah,
absolutely.
My coach said, you're fully capable of running the business you currently built. Now you have to learn how to become the person you need to be to get to the next level.
Mm.
And that I
Yeah.
think that's why there's that imposter syndrome, because there's something that you don't know that can get you to double what you're
Yeah.
doing.
Oh
And
yeah.
you have to learn it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because you realize you're not that person yet.
Exactly.
And you have to remind yourself, okay, yeah, I'm not that person yet, but I'm going to be. And you have to get really some faith in yourself that you can develop it
Yeah.
and go. And and I was going to say, on my podcast, I
Mhm.
talk a lot about, building a lifestyle company and being a lifestyle CEO, so that, you're as a CEO, you can be just buried in work all the time, every
Yes.
weekend, every night, everything. And you can even be very, very successful doing it and just be, have no life really. And your family, kind of suffers. But I love the name of your podcast, The Entrepreneur Experience, because it really does make me think back on all the years of, being an entrepreneur and building and so forth. And you mentioned just now that you come from this, poor background and so forth, and here you are. And so it reminded me of a story that I think a lot. I hope that a lot of people can relate to.
Yeah.
And I hope also that they realize that to be successful, you're not always going to be successful every day of the week
Yeah.
and every month of the year and so forth. And I say that because I can remember, 20 years ago or so. And, I mentioned I full commission sales. I'm full commission sales. I've got 3 little kids, all under the age of 5.
Oh,
I'm trying to make it happen. We're in California where I grew up. As you know, it's not inexpensive to live in California.
I'm from Southern California. Which part of
Northern
California?
California.
Northern.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a thing
Yes.
going on.
Yeah, for sure.
Northerners.
Northerners. Yeah. And yet and so I remember this day vividly, and it was really kind of like one of those low points.
Yep.
And I only tell this because anybody who's out there who's trying to be an entrepreneur, who's working at it and so forth, understand that these days happen, but you'll come back out of it. And that is, I remember at that time, we had, if it was not for the charity of others, we literally, me, my wife, and my 3 kids would have been on the street.
Yeah.
Straight up. We had people giving us food. We had people giving us money for rent. We had a 1984 Chrysler that was faded. The wheels were like cracked because they were so old. That was given to us.
Wow.
And I didn't even have the money to register it at the time.
Dang.
I was like, I had nothing.
And was California doing smog back then too, or
probably, yeah. I'm sure they were.
That's an expensive.
What were you doing at the time?
And
like,
so at the time, I was selling insurance.
Okay.
Life insurance.
I did that too.
I was
Who'd
selling
you do it with?
New York Life.
Okay, Primerica.
Yeah, and so my dad. What's crazy is my dad was with New York Life for 40 some odd years. My grandfather before him was with New York Life for like 5 years or 10 years. And that's another story. But I remember driving down the freeway on this particular day, and I just got done with a sales call that I hadn't made a sale again. And I'm driving down the road, and I'm thinking to myself, I got to go home. I don't know what I'm going to tell my wife. Am I going to tell her when, I know she's going to ask, hey, how'd your day go?
Yeah.
And am I going to be like, and I was like, am I going to, oh, it's fine, or I'm going to be like, I'm sorry, hon, we're not going to make the rent again this month.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was, but it's those kinds of experiences.
Pain points are coming up in me.
But we all have them, and that's what I've learned talking to so many entrepreneurs like you do. I'm sure you've heard the stories, and it's like you all have that low point, where it's like just nothing is going right.
Yeah, I'm even coaching a couple through that right now, which is it's hard to like listen to that. It's hard to, but the thing is like, that if they keep persisting through it and staying consistent with the right fundamentals.
Yes.
That the end is in sight. They just can't see it.
Yeah.
And I remember being there. I mean, you probably have some familiar stories too.
Yeah. I start getting creative. Like, what can I move where? And then,
yeah.
So that's me. And I did that a lot. And I was like, I'm tired of that.
Yeah.
That was the closest I got to like,
Well, one thing I did like about what you said, I'm going to go back up a couple of things, but you said something that really resonated. Success overall doesn't mean that you have daily successes. There are going to be crappy days of inefficiencies, fires, all this kind of stuff, right? But when you look at things on an average, you see the movement forward. It's like a mutual fund. It goes up.
Yeah.
It continually goes up, but you have the downs and everything like that.
Oh,
And if you
yep.
capitalize on the down times, you can really
Exponentially
grow. And I believe entrepreneurship is very similar. But you did say something also about this. You could be a CEO in the lifestyle. There's two different lifestyles. You're free, you have the money, or you're bogged down with work.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Dan Martell?
I don't know Dan.
He has a podcast, but he wrote the book called Buying Your Time Back. Have you ever heard that book?
I've heard the book.
Okay. So there was a story where he's a young CEO and he lost his marriage. Well, the lady who was supposed to marry him, because he was just working.
Mhm.
And he did say something, elevate, what was it? Delegate to elevate.
Oh, that's where that
Right?
comes from?
I think that's one. I mean,
Or
I'm
a
pretty sure
spot.
he's not the one that invented that
Yeah.
term. But
Yeah.
one big part of being an entrepreneur, being successful, is understanding who to put on your team, what systems to implement, and then who you need to give 80% of the work to that you're trying to do on your own.
Yeah.
Can we get into that? Because you talk about lifestyle CEO, and I think that's right up your alley.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I'll tell you, and I think I think when I say this,
Mhm.
it will not just resonate, but I think you'll agree, especially with the people you coach and so forth. And here's what I find whenever I'm talking to or working with somebody individually, entrepreneurs. What I find is that the entrepreneur experience typically is they go out and do just what you said. They work real hard. They eventually, kind of start making some money. They eventually do well, and they find themselves just completely buried.
Yep.
And I find that one of the primary reasons they end up in that position is because they start with the business vision, right? The vision of I'm going to build this. I'm going to build this company. I'm going to build this thing, and so forth. What they forgot to do was they forgot to start with their personal vision and what they want personally. They completely forgot.
Yeah.
And so what happens is they end up having this business vision, and everything else ends up being designed to support the business vision. And so that's why you have families falling apart. That's why you have marriages falling apart. That's why you have all this stuff falling apart, because they didn't realize that I needed to really look at my personal vision and then have the company support my personal vision.
100%.
And so that's what I found over and over.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's something that Joe does well too. Like one of the first things is like not just like, hey, do you have one, but like helping you to develop it if you haven't ever written it down or anything like that.
And at first, I'm sure you know that it can be hard for an entrepreneur, a CEO to say, really, my personal vision, that's where you want me to start, and it's
when I choose my clients, when I do the little self-assessment and diagnostic and all that stuff, the first thing I ask is, okay, what is this business supposed to do for you? Right? Like position.
Right.
That is the hardest question for anybody to answer. What is this business supposed to do for you? Or how is this business supposed to serve you? Because you're right, it is backwards. I bet you if I ask you what's your business vision, you can articulate it like that. Right? But then if I ask you what your personal vision is and what are the things that inspire you and all that kind of stuff, even seasoned entrepreneurs, we have to think about that. It's ever shifting.
Yes.
It's ever shifting, I found. And my wife asked me that the other day, and she's like, we haven't done our personal vision in a long time, and your business is getting busy. I'm like, God, thank you for always using my wife to remind me about these things. Could you use somebody else to do that, man? So it's like, oh, man. But I'm thankful that she reminds me of that, because she's like, I'm part of your personal vision. And if you want my support, I got to be the number one after God. I got to be the number one person in that vision. I'm like, yes, love, you're right.
Yeah.
I've seen the opposite too, and sometimes that frustrates me because like they both belong. Like you got to start with the personal, but then like you need a vision of like why your business. You're here to solve a problem for the world. How does your business help do that? And a lot of times that becomes forced. People write that. Like I was part of an organization that only did it just because the board was saying they should do it.
Yeah.
And they did it, and they're like, we have a vision. It's written on the wall. It's like, okay.
Maybe I'm going to actually, kind of bounce this off you just at the. I'm curious
This
if you're
is
seeing
live
if you're.
coaching,
I
guys.
know this is
Live
live.
coaching.
Nice.
I'm curious if you're seeing the same thing.
Mhm.
Is really what it comes down to. And I think this will be valuable for those listening, which is, are you seeing people get the mission and the vision of their business, maybe even their life, but of their business kind of mixed up? Like I everyone I have run into,
Mhm.
when we talk about their business vision and their business mission, they get it's very confused as to what the difference is,
Yeah.
and they don't quite understand it. And I'll kind of give you my version of it,
Mhm.
and I'm curious if yours is different or similar.
Mhm.
So, with a vision, I always tell people the vision, it describes and should inspire others
Mhm.
to want to help you
Yep.
do it. So the vision is, here's how we're going to help the world. Here's how we're going to help people.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
then the mission is, okay, this is how we're going to do that.
Yeah.
So, giving an example, if you maybe you have a software company or something, right? And you're
Mhm.
saying our vision is to help, just doing this off the top of my head. Our vision is to help contractors simplify their lives and spend more time with their families, right?
Okay.
That's a
Right,
vision
yes,
people
yeah.
can get behind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. A mission would be, our mission is to provide outstanding software that allows them to run their business easier.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's the difference. And I don't know if you've seen the same thing or if that's how
Mhm.
you would describe it as well. But I'm curious to know what
Yeah.
your thoughts are on it.
I think you articulated it very, very well, in my opinion. I do think that, and even for me, sometimes it's hard. Like when you're spitting out all these ideas, like which part is the vision, which part is the mission? Because the vision is
Yeah.
outcome, the mission is how, tasks, right,
Yes.
projects, and it could still be broad. It just gives you the guidance on how to
Mhm.
get there. The core values is what actually glue everything together,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
And this is how we're going to do it, by holding on these core values. Actually, I think a lot of my businesses had a hard start because I wasn't clear on my vision,
Mm.
especially my personal vision. I think I had an idea of what I want to do personally. Like
Mhm.
if you asked me, I was like, I want more time and more money. That's a very generic. Like, okay, great. So
It's a good
if
start.
you had more time and more money, what would you be doing? Because I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure you wouldn't be sitting on your lazy
Actually
butt
paint the picture.
doing this, right? Like, what inspires you so that you want more time and more money? And when you come down to it, then I had my coach. My wife and I called her our marriage counselor, our marriage therapist a couple times, but she was like, well, why do you want more time and money? And as we dug deep, number one, I never want my kids to grow up as poor as I ever did, whether it was in the Philippines or when we moved out here, because I was poor my whole entire life. Then I want to be able to, I grew up in a very, very bad neighborhood. So the vision is to be able to get to a point in my life so that way I can actually run a nonprofit to go back in those neighborhoods and teach young kids on the verge of drug dealing and pimping to learn a skill and to build a business out of it. We need more plumbers. We need more HVAC technicians. We need more electricians. So a vision that I have personally is to do that. How are we going to do it? I'm gonna build 7 businesses to give me 7 very strong streams of income and have people running those businesses so I can buy my time back. And so is that what you're kind of talking about?
Yeah, for sure.
So,
For sure.
sorry, I was not even intending to do that, but I think
Yeah.
what you said was very, very true. And the stronger the vision will be stronger for the business if our vision is bulletproof personally.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Because there's no way you can get your team to buy into your personal vision. They don't care.
Yeah.
Your
Yes,
team
absolutely.
doesn't care about your personal vision.
Right.
They care about a vision that the company can get them somewhere. It's
Yeah.
always out. What's in it for me?
Yeah.
Right?
Can I
Yeah.
just tell you, I've
Yeah.
literally been in companies,
Mhm.
was sitting there with management, and they have been sitting in a team meeting,
Mhm.
and they sit there and they tell everyone, "Oh yeah, I'm going to go here and I'm going to go there," and they're telling them, and in another 18 months, I won't even have to come in, and they're telling them this, and I'm thinking to myself, "Are you serious?
Yeah.
Your team doesn't want to hear that.
They don't
They could give a
care.
rat's
Yeah.
rat's
can say
crap
it. You can say it.
about
Yeah.
about it. That's not what they want to hear. They
Yeah.
want to know that they're part of something bigger.
Yes.
That's what they're there for. They're there
Especially
for support their
millennials and
family.
Gen Zs.
Mhm.
And that's all we have in our
Yeah.
marketplace now.
Yeah.
No, the millennials are good.
Well, we're older millennials.
They're
We're all
perfect.
right.
I'm on the younger side.
That's okay.
Millennials end at 94. I was 91.
Okay. Well, yeah,
I researched it because it became
a thing.
like people. I'm a literalist, so I think of things literally. you know? So like 94, that's it. Like it's just when you were born, that's it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people use it as like a
Well, I'm an old
young
enough millennial to
person.
still have had a corded phone that was like this that would get all tangled up. I remember
Yeah,
those
oh
things.
yeah,
Yeah.
I can remember
I'm
that.
talking to my girlfriend, who's now my wife, go around the corner and be like, bring the phone. And
Yeah, when it was a big deal to have a phone in your room, if
Yeah.
you had a phone in your room.
Yeah.
I remember my older sister getting a phone in her room. That was a huge deal,
Yeah.
you know.
And then became TVs in your room.
Yes, yeah,
Which I think
TVs.
fried
in the
everybody's
room.
brain. So no, but
It's because they didn't listen to the entrepreneur experience
they
on the
didn't
TV.
listen to
That's right.
entrepreneurs,
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah. Well, CEO lifestyle. I think,
Yeah.
and you have an emphasis on business growth, but through leadership, which
Mhm.
100% go hand in hand. If you want
Yeah.
business growth, it needs to be done through strong and
Yeah.
efficient leadership. Well, a CEO, right? These are principles that every CEO needs to understand.
Mhm.
Because the number one thing that I've learned a CEO has the power of doing is influence the team to buy into the vision.
Mhm.
So they have to create a strong vision, but it can't just be that person's vision or even just the company's vision. The vision has to include the team. And the team has to understand, oh my gosh, if I buy into that, we're going to go places. We're
Yes.
not,
Yeah.
this company's going to go places.
Yes.
It's we're going to go places.
Yes.
And that's what millennials liked a lot too.
Mhm.
When it became the largest workforces, millennials started going, why?
Mhm.
Why?
Yeah.
Why should I do this? Why? Blah, blah, blah. Like,
Yeah.
I'm told I need a job because blah, blah, blah. But why? You
Yeah.
know?
Mhm.
And then millennials started believing in causes
Yeah.
more than,
You were just saying, oh, I see that. I see it. That's the vision, right? That we talk
Mhm.
about. And leadership is, you know what a leader does in my mind?
Mhm.
In my mind, what a leader really does is give people hope. Like
Yep.
that's the
Oh.
overall thing that they do is they give people hope for something better. Maybe it's a
Mhm.
better job later. Maybe it's a
Yeah.
better company later. Maybe it's a better marriage. I mean, whatever it is, but that in my mind, that's ultimately what a leader does. But I think a leader, when we talk about leadership, when I take people through stuff, we use something that I call the CEO method, and that's a whole thing I won't get into. But
Mhm.
it really kind of boils down to the vision we talked about. Leader
Mhm.
has to have vision, and get people to buy in, just like you said.
Yeah.
And then the second thing they have to have, and from my experience, and I'll kind of back up a little bit. I have, like many entrepreneurs,
Mhm.
I've read, all the books, the
Yeah.
John Maxwell books, the Simon
Patrick
Sinek books,
Lencioni.
all
Yeah.
these, right?
Yeah.
You read the books, you've gone to the conferences. I mean, I've
Mhm.
literally sat in a room with like 10 or 15 other people.
you listen to the
John Maxwell.
podcast.
Yeah, with John Maxwell,
Yeah.
the podcast, and where we all got to ask him questions. Like I've
Oh,
been in
nice.
those rooms,
Did you guys know that John Maxwell was my pastor?
No, really?
Wait,
When I was a
what?
kid.
That's
'Cause he used to be
cool.
a pastor
Yeah, he
Oh, I
did.
didn't know
in
that.
San Diego. Okay.
That's
I just always
awesome.
saw his name on a book. That was it.
Such a squirrel. Go ahead.
That's all right. It's all good. That's
I didn't
awesome,
know
though.
he was alive
I didn't
until
know
like
that.
last month.
Yeah. I think he's still alive. It'd be all over the news. But anyways, sorry. Squirrel.
It's all good. It's
Yeah,
all good.
squirrel.
So the point is that I've been in those rooms, and for a
Mhm.
long time things didn't click for me. Like it
Yeah.
was not. I was kind of going, okay, but I still don't quite get it. And for me, what finally made sense to me was I kind of in my own mind realized that leaders really, people, not leaders, but people will follow really
Mhm.
typically two things. And you can have one or the other, they'll definitely follow you if you got both.
Mhm.
One is vision, of course.
Mhm.
And then the other one is results.
Yeah.
And, when we think of results, I mean, I think most everyone will think of Michael Jordan. You want to talk about a guy who gets results.
Yeah.
That guy
Oh,
gets
yeah,
some
yeah.
results.
I still think he's better than LeBron.
Oh boy, I'm not going to get into that, even though I agree
they
with you.
Just they're just gonna attack with comments. That's
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah, they're just going to go at it. But that's when it comes to leadership,
Mm.
if you can get results, whether it's in business or whatever,
Mhm.
people are drawn to that. And they
Yeah.
go, "Oh man, okay,
Yeah.
this person can get results.
Mm.
I want to see what they're doing. I want to be around them.
Mhm.
How are they getting results?" And same with vision.
Mhm.
Somebody has a really great vision. They can really see what things
Yeah.
can and could be like. People are drawn to that.
Yeah.
And so as a leader, when you are working on your business,
Yeah.
you got to have great vision and you got to learn how to get great results in your business. And that might be picking the right people for your
I
company.
was going to say that, like, the burden of having to get the results on your own doesn't
Yeah.
have to be there. It
Yeah.
just making sure you're surrounding yourself with the right leadership team.
Yeah.
The results will ultimately reflect how you lead that team,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. It ultimately does. You don't have to get
Yeah.
Jordan-esque results.
No.
You just have to get the important results that matter in
Yeah.
your business or your life or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
I
love that.
So yeah, that's and it took me years to kind of, in my own mind, really figure that out. Because the question I kept having was, okay, but as a leader, what are they following? Like they're going to follow me for something, for some reason, but what are they following? And for me, that's what it came down to.
Yeah.
Was it kind of those two things?
Well, is that part of the change? Like you were doing painting the picture of the van that you used to have, what changed there? Like
That's a great question. Great question. So on that day when I'm there and I'm because that's what you're asking about, right? That day when I just like that day was one of those days I can remember like it was yesterday. I mean, it was a beautiful sunny day. I can remember the freeway, where I was on the freeway, and I had that moment where it was just like, I even said it out loud. I even said, "Ain't nobody coming to my rescue." It was that kind of moment in your life.
Dude.
okay. So you took responsibility, really.
Yeah,
More.
and so long story short, we ended up talking with a friend of ours who kind of showed us. We said, "Hey, I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but I'm doing something wrong. I need some help.
Yeah.
Something's
Okay.
not right. I don't get it." And he ended up taking us through his kind of process. And he said, "Here's what I think you should do." And he kind of walked us through it. And it was really kind of I realize now that it was kind of part of it was like a goal setting type of process. And part of it was like a being able to see it and visualize it process. And my wife and I ended up taking that. And I mean, at that time, what did we have to lose? Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
like
yeah.
when I walked into my friend's office and said,
Yeah.
"Hey, I don't know what I'm doing wrong." He could have told me anything. I would have tried
Yeah.
it. It wouldn't have mattered at that point.
I've been there before.
But 20 years later, my wife and I have used that process, and I use it in my businesses. I'm on. I've got a board of one of the organizations. We just used that process just a month ago to plan out
Is it a secret?
2025. No, it's not a secret. It's actually 3 very simple things.
Okay.
The first thing you do
All right.
is you literally take a piece of paper and just on the top write, in 1 year I will.
Okay.
It's that simple.
Oh, yeah.
In 1 year I will.
Yes, like affirming it, like
Yeah.
verbalizing
And
it.
then you're affirming it, you're verbalizing it, and then you just write the things down. And the key is don't make it 27 things.
Yeah.
Make it a few things that you're really committed to. And then the second thing is, I will accomplish this by doing what, right? Okay, so there's the action.
Right.
We got to figure out what we're going to do to accomplish it. And so you write those things down and kind of make your list. And then the third thing was the thing that I was like surprised by. And he said, the last thing you're going to do is write, I will know I've accomplished this when.
Oh, success indicator kind of measuring.
And what's
So it's like the goal, the projects, the KPIs.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. And it was like, and when I first heard it, I was kind of like, okay, so if I'm going to buy a house, I'll know I'll have the house because I'll have a house. And he goes, no. That's not what I'm talking about. He said, what's going to be different in your life now that you have the house? So this is where the kind of the visualization kind of comes in.
Yeah.
He said, no. It's more like, I will know I've accomplished this when my kids are playing in my backyard on my swing set, and we have friends over to my house. I'm able to paint my daughter's room the color she
so
wants.
now you're visualizing
because
this thing.
Nice.
because
You don't have to ask
the landlord
for permission.
exactly.
Yep.
And I was like,
Ooh,
oh,
a
that's
goose pimple
totally
moment,
different.
guys.
Yeah, that's
a
good.
Goose
Yeah.
Well, so it's funny how like things changed after you did that with your friend.
Yeah.
And when you really think about it, the answers for a lot of the challenges that you're going through are actually very simple like that.
Yes.
When we're in a rut, we get into this mindset where we stay there. It's called the reticular activating system. The more something becomes important to you, whether it's good or bad, your brain starts to show you how
More of
sucky
it.
you are, if that's what you keep saying, or how good you are because you affirm that.
yeah.
That's why verbalization is very important
It's both
Yes.
ways.
because your
yeah.
brain hears it. And this is science, guys. This is a godly science. God created science, by the way. So, it's just one of those things where it's like your brain starts to say, oh, that's important. He hates this about his life. That's important. He hates that about his life. Well, let me keep showing him what he hates because he keeps telling me that this is important to him.
Yeah.
So affirming verbally and then visualizing it is actually a very powerful tool.
It very powerful.
Very powerful.
Very
tool.
powerful. In fact, I don't know if you do you use stories in your visualization, how you
Mhm.
do it?
Mhm.
Because very much use story. Our mind actually plays. They've shown that our brain
Mhm.
does things in stories and relates to stories. And
Yep.
so if we can write a story about our own life and that
Yeah.
we write it as if it's true, even if it's not, as
Mm.
you know,
Yeah,
as you
yeah.
mentioned, the science says our brain can't tell if it's true or not.
Right.
It's just doing what we tell it to do.
Exactly.
And it
Our
embeds.
brain's very influenced. Go ahead.
Mhm.
It embeds in there more too.
Yes.
Like I think a lot of humans are like this, but for me particularly, I'm so visual, but I'm also visual in my head. Like if you say, here's an apple, like what do you think of? I actually think of like the detail of it, like the little uh, black specks on it to like red with the discolored yellow. And like I really think of it to that detail. So when I paint a picture of what I want for my vision or whatever, it like I see myself there. I actually do. And then that helps me to truly remember it and retain that for a longer time,
Mm.
especially if I keep refreshing it and bringing it up.
Yeah.
So like I imagine like
Yeah.
even writing down like when I write stuff down, like if I'm taking notes for something, I'm not actually the kind of person that's going to go back and read my notes.
No, I never do.
I like hardly ever do. But what it actually does is it helps me to visualize because when I write something down, it
see it.
emphasizes the memory of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
And
like
if you do it in different colors too, your brain starts to retain more.
oh yeah, I would just get
That's why at Growth Club I put colored pens and sticky
Oh, yeah.
notes because
Yeah.
your brain starts to it's fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
There are some things though that I write down and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna plaster this here so it's
Yeah.
always in my sight. I can always remember it. Like
Yeah.
your thing, writing that down, that should probably be like somewhere visual so you can always remind yourself of it.
Yeah. You should be reading your story every morning and every night. When you
Oh,
write it down,
yeah.
you shouldn't just be
Huh.
writing it down once. You should be reading it, reliving it
Yep.
every morning, every night, because you gotta reprogram. You got, however old you are, if you're 40, if you're 20, you got 20 years of programming that you got to reprogram
Yeah.
because you got a bunch of bad programming in there.
Yeah.
Yep.
And mindset is such a huge thing now.
Oh,
It's such a
dude.
huge topic. And
Well, Jim
It's
Rohn,
so
I know somebody who knows him, who knew him personally. He's an older fellow that actually is a big time earner in Herbalife. That Jim Rohn came from Herbalife, right?
Oh, he did.
And he's like, when I was a young Herbalife guy, Jim Rohn was coming to town and they chose me to go pick him up in the car. He's like, I'm going to do it. So it was a 30-minute drive from the airport to where they were. He's like, if there was one thing I got out of everything, Jim Rohn said, mindset is everything. Mindset is everything. I used to be a contractor on the Navy SEAL training base in San Diego. It's called BUDS. And when I talked to some of the instructors, because I became friends with some of them, they're like, what we're doing is we're trying to train their mindset to think they can do whatever they want. To think that they can actually do this. The ones who stop trying to figure it out before, who just go with the motions and develop a very, very strong mindset are the ones who pass. Not the super, fit people and everything like that. It's just the ones who are not willing to bow their knee to their negative mindset. I'm like, wow. He's like, don't get me wrong, it's still physical, right?
Yeah.
People break
Yeah.
their legs all the time and can't do it,
yeah.
People die and we have to revive them.
And
You
the
know?
physical can play a part in the mental.
Exactly.
And vice versa.
But he says 20%, 80% is mindset training.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Mentally strong and physically strong. Yeah. That's absolutely 100%.
Yeah.
100%. That's I tell you what, I've never had a desire to go through that much physical pain and anguish.
No.
But I respect the people who have,
Oh yeah.
and their mental toughness is like, wow, that's
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah.
It is so impressive.
Mhm.
From any standard.
Yeah.
So
Well, I watched them, get beat down by just the physics. I'm like, wow. And they volunteered for this.
Yeah.
I'm just going to volunteer to watch. You know what I mean? I was on the base.
Yeah.
Quick couple of questions for you before we, so the conversation here was phenomenal. We kind of got
I
to know who
enjoyed it.
you were based
Yeah.
off of this, but can you give us your definition of success?
Oh, that is such a yeah, okay. First of all, the definition as I go through phases of my life um, changes a little bit.
Yeah.
For example, when my kids were really young and small,
Right.
the definition was a little bit different because I wanted to spend more time with the kids
Yeah.
and play with them and things of that nature. Um, but ultimately, I would say the definition for me is being able to have a life and a lifestyle where I can both enjoy time with family,
Mhm.
and that means things like vacations,
Mhm.
not even extravagant stuff.
Yeah.
Simple things, just being able to get away for a time.
Right.
Mm.
Um, as well as being able to have the financial wherewithal to um, that I'm not constantly worried about money,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not filthy rich either. I almost don't even really want to be filthy rich. That's not
Gotcha.
really what I want because there are a whole bunch of other problems that come with that I've actually seen in other people
Oh,
that
yeah.
I'm really not interested in. But I want to be comfortable
Mhm.
and I
Mhm.
want to just be able to enjoy. Um, if I want to do something, I want to be able to enjoy that.
Yeah.
To me, that's success.
Absolutely.
And the other part of success is being able to have the time in the evenings to spend with my spouse, time on weekends and so forth. Because as you and I both know, there have been plenty of years in my life where I just worked all weekend and I
Yeah.
worked through in the evenings and those kinds of things. And that was a poor choice in what I thought what success was.
Yeah.
So
As I look
for
back
me,
on all
that's
my
what it
nights
is.
and weekends, I look back, I'm like, I didn't even
Yeah.
have to do it. I
Yeah.
just felt like I had to.
Yeah.
That's a really great definition of success. Obviously, everybody has to define it for themselves,
Mhm.
right? Because,
Mhm.
like you said, your desire is not to be filthy rich.
Yeah.
Some people have that desire for whatever reason in the world it is,
Are you wearing all the hats? Do you want to wear all the hats in your business? With JT Visuals, you don't have to wear all the hats.
Make better content. JT Visuals, without the eye. Because there's more than meets the eye with video content. Don't just be the best known.
The majority of businesses in the United States can make a lot of money. But do you know why most fail? It's because of burnout. Now, entrepreneurship is an amazing avenue to build wealth and to build the dream that you want, only for the majority of them to fail. Don't let that be you. You might be watching this video and you just started a business. You might be thinking about starting a business, or you're well into 3 or 5 years into business and you're hitting that level of success and you're like, where do I go from here? What's the next step? Well, have you thought about a coach? Did you know that the majority of businesses that get coached have a higher success ratio? We just came up with online courses with over 80 videos for you to learn how to build your business. Click on the link below, get registered, and you'll have access to everything that it comes with.
So I love how your dream has a lot to do with like your family, and
Yeah.
filthy rich is not one of the core values.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure if God blesses you with that, you'll know what to do with it.
Yeah,
know.
don't get me wrong. We all like money, and we all want to have it,
Mhm.
and it's all obviously better to have it than not have it in most
Yeah.
cases. But I don't need a $50-100 million company and have
Mhm.
tens of millions in the bank for me to feel like number one I'm a success, and number
yeah.
two that I'm happy. And I named my company the Pursuit of Happiness Academy
Right,
Mm.
right.
because business. I know that business is so much more than just revenue, profits, building teams. It's really about all the other stuff. It's about the family, the spouse, the
Mhm,
kids, the grandkids.
Yep.
I'm at a point now where my last kid just got out of the house,
Oh,
and I'm not
That's
even 50
success.
yet.
that's success, right?
Yeah, that's very
It
success.
is. Like,
Very much success.
Yeah.
But I'm looking toward the grandkids, and I'm like,
Yeah.
man, grandkids are going to be coming at some point. And my kids call me the grandpa prepper because because I'm so excited. I have like the little candy machine where you put quarters in.
Right.
And like I
right.
bought one because I'm like, my grandkids
They're
are
gonna- and I'm gonna have a bunch of
yeah, it's
quarters.
gonna
You
be
know what I mean?
awesome.
Like, yeah, that's amazing. I like that.
Yeah.
I like.
so
Well, that's good
yeah.
visualization right there,
Uh-huh.
right? Because
Yeah.
it's like now a business needs to be built around that, around
yes,
being able to be grandpa,
for sure.
best one ever,
For sure.
right?
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's going to
I
be a
like that.
blast. It's going to be
Yeah, 'cause if you
all the fun of playing with them without all the stress of having to build a career at the same time.
Just give them back.
Yeah, that's right. And give them
Yeah,
back.
Just give them back. Right?
Well,
Yeah.
they say if you raise your kids, you can spoil your grandkids.
Yeah.
But if you spoil your kids, you got to raise your grandkids.
Right. Right.
I've seen that.
Mhm.
I've seen that. Oh my gosh.
So,
Yeah.
according to your definition of success, where are you now with that?
That's another great question.
That's a great
Jared.
question. I would,
Sorry.
if I'm being honest, I have structured my businesses and my life
Mm.
in such a way that I'm being pretty successful right now.
Mhm.
My time, on the one hand, I have the time to put into my businesses and my companies and my clients and all that kind of stuff that I need.
Mhm.
And on the other hand, I also have the flexibility and the ownership of my time, which is the
Mm.
tough part,
Mm.
to be able to go do some of the things that I want to do.
Like be on a podcast, for example.
Honestly, it's true.
Yeah.
I do want to be on
Yeah.
some podcasts, and so I'm
Yeah.
glad you brought me on because that's one of the things I'm like, yeah, I want to do that. That would be fun.
Yeah.
It would be exciting,
Yeah.
and so it has been. By the way, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah,
It's been great.
There
good for
should
us
be a
to-
number two.
But yeah,
I think
Well,
almost
maybe we can join your podcast.
absolutely. I would love to have you on my
Yeah.
podcast.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we'll talk about lifestyle and building
So-
companies.
I just took a test by Patrick Bet-David, the guy that does valuetainment.
Yep.
I forgot the stuff that drives you. He has a test that like find your drive or what drives you. So one of my clients just sent it to me yesterday. What drives me is being an individualist, being able to do what nobody else can do, and part of that's lifestyle. And I think
and
that
you know what else no one else can do?
What
Is be you. No, for real. Like
Yeah.
you're the only you. So
Yeah. No, but what truly drives me is to know that I don't beat to anybody else's drum but my own. I set the bar of how excellence should be.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
You know,
Be a thermostat.
I do like fancy things. Don't get me wrong. I like nicer things. It's not my idol or my god, but if I'm able to have it, I would love to be able to enjoy that experience.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like the fancy trips. I do.
Yeah.
That's just something that as a kid I've always dreamed of. Being poor, I'm like, I want to do that. So that just kind of stuck. And now that I have the ability to do that every once in a while, I have an awesome wife to share those experiences with.
Yeah.
So now
That's
I want
the
to do it
best
even
part.
more. So what drives me now is to be able to do that, to take my wife and my kids to experience those things and to
Yeah.
see what level up beyond what I could do that I was able to influence them to be because of all these experiences. Because
Yeah,
I
shared.
believe my family they're all entrepreneurial. And I want to set that bar and be like, look, there's way more to life than just to have a
Uh-huh.
job. Now, if you want to be a doctor or a nurse or something with that inspires you, cool, do that, right? But I even told my kids, I'm not going to pay for your college. You're going to have to figure this out. You know what I mean? I'm not going to give you an inheritance until you could prove to me that you can handle $1,000 or $100,000 in your bank account. Like nothing's going to come easy. And I'm doing that so I can prepare you. Now, people may or may not agree with that. That's just
Yeah.
kind of what I feel led to do.
Well,
you know?
I personally, agree with that because I've seen, unfortunately, a number of entrepreneurs build small businesses, companies,
Mhm.
and then they'll have their child come in, and
Tear down.
the child doesn't understand what it took for that parent to get
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
and because they don't understand this risk, the sacrifice, and so forth, they just think, oh well, I can do this.
Yep.
And what ends up happening sometimes, hopefully not all the time, is that the once the parent kind of is out of the business, the company slowly deteriorates,
Yeah.
and that is really sad to see, especially when you've got somebody that's built something. And
Oh yeah.
Craig
it's not a
Rochelle
great
says that like that
position to be in.
second generation when they take over something is usually in protection mode.
Yep.
Is what happens.
Yep.
Mm.
And I want to teach my kids to be risky.
And you
The
said
fortune comes with the risk. You know?
Yeah.
well, you
Yeah.
said
Yeah.
earlier too on this one where you're like, I don't want my kids to have to grow up poor. And then now you're saying, but they're not going to get all my money. So
No,
it's
they're
like,
not.
so then that makes me assume that you have a different definition of even rich. Like, what's your rich life, you know?
Yeah. Well, there's the material side of things, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like the material side of things are the KPIs for what you do right, fundamentally. You know, wealth for me is to be able to enjoy experiences and lifestyles with my entire family.
Mm.
I want that with my kids. I want them to be able to marry husbands and say, hey, I want to be inspired by your father. I want to have a house large enough so that everybody comes to my house for Thanksgiving, my
Mm.
house for Christmas, and I can have enough bedrooms to put everybody in. And I got 5 children, so I need a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean? But
yeah.
that for me, that's wealth. That I'm not just uber rich with physical dollars and physical assets. If that comes. But wealth to me is the fact that, you know, I have kids that love me beyond them living in my home.
Mm.
And that their husbands or wives also love us.
Yes.
And that their children want to be with Papa. You know what I mean? That to me is wealth. And that
Yeah.
puts tears in my eyes as I'm talking about it. And I don't even have grandchildren yet, but I have a 16-year-old daughter. I'm like, you know what? Within 5 years, she might be married. And she might have kids.
Mm.
And oh, guys,
Mm.
I
Did
just
you
want to
just
give you a
scare yourself?
testimony. I just scared the crap out of myself. But last year, my 2 oldest daughters, 15 and 16, they were like, no, we want careers. And this year, they're like, Dad, we've been thinking about it and seeing how you and Mom do things. Can we be your marketing managers? We know social media. Can
That's
we?
so
And I'm like, yes, you can. You know? But like, it was just one of those moments where I'm like, God, thank you. Like, this is my desire. This is my, you know, and I purposely have conversation with them about like how much better entrepreneurship is. You know, just I don't care. They're vulnerable, but I know that I'm not manipulating them in a bad way. I'm giving them the truth that if you want options, most jobs won't give you that to you.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship is,
Yeah.
in my way, how your mom and I figured things out. You know, so
I think it was Robert Kiyosaki in one of his books or something. That
Oh, that's the
he
Rich
talks
Dad,
about,
Poor Dad
yeah,
guy,
Rich
right?
Dad, Poor Dad guy. You know, he talks about, you know, the job being safe,
mhm.
but that job can go away at any time.
Mm.
You know,
What
I've
do you
got,
say? You're only as safe as the person writing your check.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
or printing.
I mean, I know 3 people right now who are like, I think they're software developers.
Mm.
And, you know, at least one of them has been out of work for a number of months now.
Mm.
And all 3 of them are out of work. And
Yeah.
it's like, well,
And that's a
what are you gonna
safe
do?
skill.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's
That's a
safe.
quote unquote safe thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Oh,
So
yeah. I love this. See,
Yeah, this is
you
good.
got us all in the personal vision, and that's kind of where we kind of hung out, and I love
That's
that.
great.
I
It's
love
been
that.
fun.
Yeah. Well, hey, what's your vision personally?
Oh, mine?
Yeah.
Are you speaking to me?
I was speaking to Jared. Can't be a fly on the wall on this one, bro.
I don't have one. I need to write it right now. Can you guys help me?
Lifestyle CEO. Coach him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. So it's for me, like where we are is to get to the next phase is actually, you know, to get at home. I really want to retire my wife. I actually need to now because in a month in 2 days, a month, we're having another third kid.
Wow.
So, and part of my
Congratulations.
personal vision, like, and the way that I would define success even as freedom, like I want freedom of and flexibility of crafting those memories, being able to be present, being able to say yes more to things and not no just because of a budget, you know? I want to say no just because it's not good to always spoil. I don't want to say no because we don't have it. You know what I mean?
That's powerful, man.
So, and then pretty much that's it. I mean, I have some like personal that goes along with the business and I mean, that does too, but where the business and the structure of what I want to build, I really have this vision to let it be a house of worship and rent it out to churches for free. Like, because I don't do Sundays. And what I want to build and the way that the design is for like the studio and how I run the operation, I think would be a really good incubator for like new church launches and stuff like that. So I don't even think I've told you that, but like that is.
You did actually tell me a little bit
Okay.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
I was like, not just have like worship nights and things like that. And like, I really want to do like entrepreneur worship nights too. Like, I have a big passion for that. That would be cool. Like, pray over everyone's businesses and sing songs and hymns and spiritual songs.
Yeah.
But that's my passion because that's my
cool.
background and everything.
Yeah.
And then I just want to be able to help make the world a better place. Is the grand thing.
Yeah.
Just play a role in it.
Yeah.
Leave a legacy. That's my personal vision.
Well, for going off the top of your head, that was pretty dang good.
Well, I've written it down before, and then I was going off the top of my head.
He's
basically.
paraphrasing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once you're
that's
able to
good.
define how to make the world a better place too, it becomes even more powerful. Like when the vision becomes very clear and you can articulate how, when, what,
Yeah.
who, what, where, when, why, how. Yeah.
Because for me, it starts out kind of blurry.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was like that for you, but it's kind of blurry. And the more that you like, you keep refining it and refining it, and then based on your experience, it might shift just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But the overall is still the same.
Yeah, so I kind of approach personal vision a little more mechanical, maybe. Maybe
Okay.
that's the word. I try to instead of just writing just a broad statement, I do a couple of things. One is I try to look at really 5 areas, which is like relationships, health,
Oh.
personal develop my
Yep.
own personal development,
And happiness.
and what's that?
Happiness, which is probably personal.
Yeah,
it fits into
and
that.
so I have these kind of 5 areas, and I'll kind of write what I want in those areas.
Yep.
And then I do try to boil it down to just 1 or 2 sentences, just to make sure
Okay.
it's summed up,
Yeah.
But that's kind of how I approach it, and I'll revisit it every 3 to 6 months or something. I'll look at it again, and I'll tell you what, it's a great way to when you're feeling lost in your business or lost in your life in general.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great way to go, okay, let me stop for a second and just what am I even trying to accomplish? Let's go
Mhm.
back to my vision.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back to those
Mhm.
areas that I wrote some things down on 6 months ago, and I
Yeah.
forgot to look at it, and now I got to go back and, oh yeah, this is what I wanted.
Yep.
And you can easily see where you're off and and maybe why you're feeling so lost, with your team or whatever.
Yep.
And so it's just a good kind of guide
Yep.
to what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Because gosh, there's so much we can do, and there's so much we can squirrel on and all that. It's
Well, I mean, if you start pursuing the squirrel, whether it's something you're supposed to pursue or
absolutely.
not, it changes your vision because it changes the trajectory of,
Mm-hmm.
and you can make permanent mistakes
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
where you're
sure
forced
can.
to change your vision, right?
Mhm.
I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
so
Yeah.
man,
Dang.
amazing. If there's one thing that you've learned in life that you can just help the overall audience here, piece of advice,
Great.
something
question.
like that. What would you tell a general audience? We have startups, we have the
Yeah.
rugged veteran entrepreneurs, we have CEOs and even managers watching. So, what is it? What does Keith Miller say the number one?
The number
advice
one
is?
thing actually has nothing to do with business.
Okay.
The number one thing I would, if I'm being totally real and raw,
Mhm.
I would say the number one thing is develop your faith in God.
Amen.
Mm.
Develop your faith in Him,
Mhm.
and quite literally, if you're a praying person, pray for faith. Ask for faith,
Mhm.
because I can't tell you how many times in my life that had made a bigger difference than anything else I've
Yeah.
ever done.
Mm.
Yep.
It centers you and grounds you in a way that literally nothing else can, because we talk about business, we talk about a lot of these things, but going back to that personal vision, part of that is, where are we grounded in? What do we ground it in?
Mm.
Is really what it comes down
Yeah.
to.
Your
And
foundation. Absolutely.
that's the real answer. That's the
Mhm.
truth.
Yeah. I always see it that way too. I mean, I'm a man of faith. I'm a Christian, and I know there's people that are not watching. I think the lesson there is, what are you grounded in? What are your
Mhm.
core beliefs? What's your foundation?
Mhm.
For me, it's like my pastor asked me one time. He said, "What's your list of priorities?" I was like, "Well, God, family, business."
Mhm.
He's like, "Okay, cool. So when the God priority is done with, you put them away, and then you go to your wife." No, he's like, God needs to own your entire list of priorities. He needs to be
Mm.
the person that does that. So all the list of priorities need to be grounded on the foundation of Christ, and that's where I draw my strength and
Yep.
and
Hmm.
stuff. And I was like, oh, That's a different way of seeing it. And then 6 months after, I'm like, I forgot about it until, things started going a little tough again. Like they got a little tough like a couple years ago. I'm like, oh, this is what he means, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to just go to God whenever I need him. It just needs to be a lifestyle of
Yeah.
grounding myself in my faith. So, yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah. That's all really good. Thank you so much for being here. Like,
Yeah.
this was really awesome. I liked it.
Yep.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Definitely
it was
need a part
great.
2 or something. Or, hey, guys, go follow his podcast. Again, that is called
Lifestyle CEO, Get Your Life Back.
Nice.
Do you have
And
a YouTube channel by chance?
Not yet.
Okay, YouTube channel
not yet.
coming soon.
Coming soon. It
But
is.
how
coming.
can they subscribe to your podcast and listen to your content?
Yeah, they can just go to lifestyleceopodcast.com.
Okay,
That's
what
the easiest
platforms are you
way.
on?
So we're on all the platforms.
Okay.
Whether it's
Apple,
Apple
Spotify.
or Spotify or whatever, they can go wherever they
Okay.
want and
Amazing.
listen there. So yeah. So thanks. I
And
appreciate
and
it.
we're trying to convince them to do YouTube. So
Yeah.
YouTube coming soon.
It is coming soon. It is coming
Awesome.
soon.
Awesome.
There's
what
no
about
convincing. You don't have a choice. You just have to.
I know, you just have to.
social media handles? Where can people follow you on social media?
Oh, good question. So LinkedIn is probably the best place to follow me,
Okay.
and the handle there is Keith R. Miller.
Keith R. Miller.
yeah,
Common
so-
spelling?
Common spelling,
Okay,
KEITHR Miller, and that's probably the easiest place for them to follow me if they want to get in.
Okay. So if you have any questions about his coaching program or podcast, his content or anything like that, they can easily find that out on
Yep.
on LinkedIn.
Yes.
And then
Yeah, they
just
can go to
go
LinkedIn. They'll find my links and
Okay.
my podcast and everything else.
Great. So what is your number one ideal client? I mean, there might be some online right now. So
Yeah.
what is your ideal client? Like who would you like to serve and help the most?
Yeah, I love to serve entrepreneurs
Okay.
who are really feel like their dreams, their health,
Mhm.
and their life is suffering,
Okay.
and they're not sure where to go next.
Mhm.
And I love to help that person
Okay.
get things organized and come back to really center in their business and in their life,
Mm.
and get things back to where they wanted it to be. Help them understand what their personal vision really is, and then show them how to make it a reality.
I love that.
That's
And
awesome.
do you do that through like one-to-one coaching, group coaching? Like what is
So either or. So we have
Okay.
group coaching, we have one-on-one coaching, and those are the two things that we have depending on where they are, what they want to accomplish.
beautiful?
We can put something together for them.
All right. Well, there you guys have it. Coach Keith R. Miller, Lifestyle CEO podcast, and the Pursuit of Happiness Academy for business coaching and business scaling and leadership and all the beautiful things that you talked about. We really appreciate you
Thanks.
coming on here and sharing your heart and sharing your wisdom. It's
Yeah.
been
Yes.
amazing.
Yep.
So,
I
guys,
appreciate it.
Coach Joe here, Action Coach South Kansas City.
JT with JT. I always mess it up. No, I don't. Just this episode, I always mess it up. Jared Taylor with JT Visuals without the eye because more meets the eye.
Yep. And that's all video production and
yeah.
podcast stuff. And again, our
And-
fantastic friend, Keith Miller. Stay strong, guys.
And keep on keeping on. What's your sign off?
Boom.
What's your sign off line?
My son offline. Go get your life back. That's
There we
my
go.
sign-off.
All right, say it.
Go get your life back.
There we go.